My doctor husband fell in love with a cancer patient while we were still married, told me he was leaving me for her, and now my sister thinks it's a beautiful love story, but I'm just the wife everyone forgot about. I, 32F, am going through a divorce right now, and it feels like the floor has been ripped out from under me. My soon-to-be ex-husband, 35M, is a doctor, and we've been married for 6 years. For most of that time, I thought we were building something real, maybe not perfect, but strong. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but nothing ever made me think we wouldn't grow old together. That changed a few months ago when he told me, very calmly, that he had fallen in love with someone else. That sentence alone destroyed me. But it wasn't just the fact that he'd fallen for someone. It was who it was and how it happened that really messed with my head. She's 41, and she used to be a cancer patient at the hospital where my husband worked. And before anyone jumps in, no, he wasn't her doctor. He made that abundantly clear when he broke the news to me. Like that would somehow make it all more acceptable. Apparently, they met casually while she was undergoing treatment, and they struck up some kind of emotional connection. I don't know all the details because honestly, I can't bring myself to ask. I just know that she was in a very vulnerable place, and so is he, I guess. She's in remission now, and that's a good thing. I'm not heartless. I'm genuinely glad she pulled through. I want her to have a long, healthy life. I just didn't expect my own life to be shattered in the process. He says the connection they built during that time was deep and unexpected, and that they didn't plan for it to happen. But the end result is the same. He fell for her while he was still married to me. And now, he's leaving me to be with her. Not even just leaving. He's excited about starting this new life, while I'm left here drowning in disbelief. It's been surreal, honestly. I keep replaying everything in my mind. Our conversations, our routines, even the stupid little jokes we used to share, and none of it makes sense anymore. I'm constantly stuck in this loop of, how did I not see this coming? And was any of it real? The worst part is that no one seems to be mad at him. I'm the one whose world is falling apart. But people talk about this whole thing like it's some tragic romance. My own sister, of all people, has called it beautiful and inspiring. Like it's something to aspire to, not the wreckage of a 6-year marriage. So now I'm stuck in this awful limbo. I don't know how to process what I feel because it seems like everyone else has already decided this is a story with a happy ending. Except I'm not in that ending. I'm the discarded chapter, and I'm not even allowed to be upset about it. Looking back, I guess there were signs. Subtle ones. He started coming home a little later than usual, sometimes blaming paperwork or post-shift meetings. There were nights when he seemed distant, like he was physically present, but mentally somewhere else. I asked a few times if everything was okay, and he always brushed it off, said work was just getting to him, that he was tired. I wanted to believe him. I chose to believe him. Then came the moment everything fell apart. It was a Sunday evening. We were eating dinner, and out of nowhere, he said, "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. No good conversation has ever started with those words. He looked calm, too calm, and that scared me more than anything. He told me he had developed feelings for someone else. Just like that. No build-up, no remorse in his voice. I remember the room going completely quiet. It felt like the world stopped spinning. I couldn't even cry at first. I just sat there, trying to make sense of what he had just said. At first, I thought maybe it was a coworker or someone from his gym, someone he bumped into regularly. But when he told me it was a former cancer patient from the hospital where he used to work, my brain froze. I asked if she had been his patient. He was quick to clarify, no, never. She was admitted under another doctor. We just met around the hospital. The way he said it made it sound harmless. Like they bumped into each other by the vending machine and magically formed this deep, soul-shattering bond. But to me, it wasn't harmless. He was supposed to be my husband. He was supposed to be loyal. And instead, he opened his heart to someone else. Someone who, at the time, was fighting for her life and who now, apparently, holds his entire heart. I asked when it started, and he said, wasn't physical, not until recently. But we've been emotionally close for a while now. That might have been worse, honestly. A physical affair I could have blamed on impulse or lust. But emotional intimacy? That's the kind of betrayal that keeps you up at night, wondering how long you've been a stranger to the person sleeping next to you. He told me he tried to fight it, that he never intended for it to happen. But feelings are feelings, and life is unpredictable, and blah blah blah. The kind of justifications that sound poetic to him, but hollow to the person he's destroying. He even had the nerve to say that meeting her helped him see what he really wants in life. As if I were just a warm-up for the person he was meant to be with. As if our marriage was a detour on the way to something more meaningful. Since that night, we've barely spoken except to handle divorce logistics. He's already moved out. He's probably with her now, maybe holding her hand, telling her how lucky he is to have found her in the darkest of times. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here, mourning a man who technically still has my last name, but none of my heart anymore. What truly broke me more than the betrayal itself was the way people around me reacted. I expected anger, support, outrage on my behalf. But instead, I got silence. Or worse, romantic admiration for their story. My own sister, who I've always been close to, talks about it like it's some sweeping love saga. She told me, with this dreamy tone in her voice, "Isn't it kind of beautiful, though, that he met someone during such a hard time in her life? And they connected like that." I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It never came. I asked her, what about me? What about his wife? The one who supported him through medical school, who moved cities for his job, who was waiting for him to come home while he was falling in love with someone else. And do you know what she said? I mean, you can't help who you fall in love with. No one is mad at him. No one is even disappointed. It's like his actions have been covered with a shiny coat of sentimentality because the woman involved had cancer. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad she survived. I'm glad she's in remission. I do not wish anything bad to happen to her. But why does that mean I have to quietly step aside and applaud their connection? Friends have been weirdly neutral too. A couple of them offered generic sympathy. That must be so hard for you. But none of them stayed angry for more than 5 minutes. It's as if the narrative has already been written. Tragic patient meets compassionate doctor. Hearts collide, love blossoms, cue soft music, and fade to black. I don't even exist in that version of the story. The people who do acknowledge me treat me like I'm made of glass. They keep using words like gracious and understanding, like it's my job to take the high road while my life crumbles. As if being angry makes me look petty in the face of her illness. I've even caught myself censoring my own feelings when I talk about it. I hesitate before saying I hate her because I know people will recoil. Not because they care about my pain, but because how dare I say anything negative about a woman who had cancer? It's incredibly isolating. I feel like I'm mourning a loss that no one else sees. I'm grieving my marriage, my future, my trust, and everyone around me is caught up in this fantasy about two people finding love in a hospital hallway. I'm the only one stuck in reality. Even my mother, who I expected to be firmly in my corner, told me, sometimes people just drift apart. I wanted to scream. We didn't drift. He jumped ship into someone else's arms while I was still trying to patch up the sails. It feels like I'm being erased. Like my pain doesn't count because someone else's pain was bigger. But guess what? I'm hurting too. Just because she was sick doesn't mean she gets a free pass to build her happy ending on the ruins of mine. I don't even know what I feel anymore. Some days I wake up and I still love him. I still miss him, or maybe just the version of him that existed before all of this. Other days, I can barely look at his name on an envelope without shaking with rage. It's like there are two versions of me now. One who remembers our wedding day, and another who watches him walk out like none of it ever mattered. And then there's her, the woman I'm apparently supposed to praise for surviving cancer and bringing clarity to my husband's life. I'm glad she's healthy. Truly, I don't wish harm on her. But I hate her, not in the villainous, cartoonish way people assume when you say that word. It's quieter than that. It's this simmering ache every time I picture her holding his hand, knowing that used to be mine. I hate that she gets the best version of him now. The version that's ready to open up, to love deeply, to appreciate life. Do you know how many nights I spent sitting across from that man, trying to pull words out of him like teeth? How many times I asked him if he was happy, if he needed anything, and he just shrugged. And now he's suddenly emotionally available, pouring his heart out to someone else while I'm left with the scraps. And she gets to be the muse, the one who helped him grow. Meanwhile, I'm a footnote, the lesson, the one he learned from before moving on to something real. It's infuriating, and yet, I feel guilty. Because how do you admit you hate a cancer survivor without sounding like the world's coldest human being? That's the paradox I live in. If I speak the truth, I sound cruel. If I stay silent, I drown in it. Everyone seems to think I should be grateful this didn't turn into some tragic story. At least she survived, they say. At least he didn't cheat on you physically. At least. But no one ever says at least you're not alone now, because I am. I'm completely alone in this. And worse, I feel like I'm not allowed to be anything but noble about it. But I'm not noble. I'm human. And right now, I am heartbroken. I am angry. I am bitter. I didn't get a choice in how this happened. And I sure as hell didn't get a vote in how everyone else reacts to it. I keep going back and forth between wanting to scream at them both and wanting to curl into a ball and disappear. I don't know if what I feel is justified, but I do know that it's real. And that should count for something. Because while they get to live out their movie-worthy ending, I'm stuck living in the credits, trying to figure out what happens to the woman who wasn't part of the fairy tale. Sometimes, late at night, I find myself staring at the ceiling, asking questions I'll never get answers to. Was I not enough? Did I miss something obvious? Should I have fought harder? Or was I simply never meant to win against something like this? I go in circles, chasing logic in a situation that has none. And then the guilt creeps in. I hate her, but I feel guilty for hating her. What kind of person resents someone who went through one of life's worst nightmares and came out alive? What kind of woman holds on to bitterness while the world praises strength and survival? Apparently me, and that realization alone makes me feel disgusting. Like I'm not just the left-behind wife, but the bad guy in someone else's feel-good story. Everyone says I should be the bigger person, that I should let go of anger, forgive, move forward. But they don't see what I see. They didn't stand in my kitchen, watching the man they love explain, with almost clinical detachment, that he found a deeper connection elsewhere. They didn't feel their future dissolve into thin air with one conversation. They weren't the ones expected to smile politely at the tragedy-turned-love story that shattered their marriage. And maybe that's why I'm so stuck. Because no matter how many times I remind myself that feelings aren't rational, the world keeps telling me mine are wrong. That I should be filled with grace and compassion, not resentment and heartbreak. But where is my compassion? Who has grace for me? I've tried to reframe it. I've told myself it wasn't malicious, that people fall out of love, that timing is cruel, that maybe they didn't mean for it to happen this way. But intention doesn't undo impact. It doesn't make the abandonment less painful. It doesn't erase the nights I cried in a house that used to be ours while he was falling deeper into someone else's arms. Some part of me wants to be the person everyone thinks I should be. The calm, wise, forgiving woman who wishes them the best and finds peace in solitude. But I'm not there yet. I don't know if I ever will be. Right now, I'm just someone trying to survive a version of loss that no one seems to acknowledge as valid. I want to scream that I mattered, that my pain matters, that I'm not a villain for feeling hurt, that I'm not bitter for wanting to be chosen, that I'm not heartless for refusing to applaud the ending that cost me everything. I don't need people to hate them. I don't even need people to take sides. I just need anyone to say, yeah, I get it. I feel the same way too. Because if I'm wrong for feeling this way, then I don't know what right even looks like anymore. At the end of the day, I don't want revenge. I don't want to sabotage their relationship or wish them misery. That's not who I am. What I do want is to be honest about how deeply this has affected me. I want the space to grieve, not just the loss of a person, but the loss of the version of myself who still believed in the life we were building together. I didn't lose him to cheating in the traditional sense. I lost him to a story people think is beautiful. A story that erases the pain I carry every single day. And in that erasure, I become invisible. Just another nameless before in his journey to after. I'm trying to rebuild, but it's hard when everyone expects you to be healed already. I want to scream sometimes. No, I'm not okay. No, I don't think it's romantic. No, I don't think this was fate or destiny or whatever comforting label people slap on betrayal to make it easier to swallow. I've been told to let it go, to move on, to wish them well. But part of me still hates her. Not because she lived, not because she found love, but because she became the ending to a story that left me behind without a second thought. And that's the part one can't let go of. So, Reddit, AITA for hating the woman my husband fell in love with while she had cancer. I don't wish her harm. I want her to stay healthy. But I can't help how I feel. I just need to know if feeling this way makes me cruel, or if maybe, just maybe, it makes me human. Update 1. I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. I wasn't expecting that kind of response, and honestly, just seeing people validate my emotions made me feel less insane. I think what hurt the most was how isolated I felt, like I was the only person who saw what was happening as wrong, or at the very least, cruel. I was so used to people around me framing this whole thing as some tragic, beautiful love story that I started questioning whether I even had a right to be angry. Your replies helped me reclaim that. It's been a little over a month since my husband moved out. He packed his things in silence. Mostly, we didn't speak much, and the atmosphere in the house felt like it was holding its breath. He left behind a few things by accident. A watch I gave him on our second anniversary, an old hoodie I used to wear around the house, a book we read together during the early days of the pandemic. I don't know if leaving them behind was a subconscious act of guilt, or if he really just forgot. Either way, I boxed it all up and put it in the closet. I'm not ready to deal with it yet. He didn't tell me where he was moving, but through mutual friends, and unfortunately, my sister, I found out he's staying with her. I wasn't surprised. He probably convinced himself that moving in with her right away was meant to be, or something. I try not to dwell on what their life looks like now. But every now and then, my brain drifts there against my will. Are they making coffee together in the morning? Watching medical dramas and laughing about how inaccurate they are? Do they talk about me? And yes, I know I should stop asking those questions. But when someone walks out of your life so suddenly, your mind scrambles to fill the gaps. It's like an open wound your thoughts can't stop poking. Speaking of gaps, my sister. Wow, if I thought she was being tone deaf before, this past month has made me realize she's fully bought into the fantasy. She adores my ex's new relationship. She thinks it's soulmate stuff, and she's made comments to my face like, it must be hard watching him find the kind of love, huh? Yes, it is. Thanks for the reminder. Last weekend, I finally confronted her. I told her that her behavior has been hurting me, and that I needed her to stop romanticizing the situation. I asked her, would she say those same things if the woman he left me for didn't have cancer? Would she still think it was meant to be, If it were just another woman he met at a bar? She didn't have a real answer. She got quiet and said, I guess I never thought about it that way. That's the problem, though. No one thinks. They hear the word cancer, and suddenly morality goes out the window. Like, oh, she's been through enough. Let's not complicate the story by holding anyone accountable. It's maddening. Thanks to some encouragement in the comments, I started seeing a therapist. It took a couple tries to find someone I could really talk to without feeling like I had to perform grief in a socially acceptable way, but I finally found a woman who gets it. She told me something during our second session that stuck with me. You're not angry because she had cancer. You're angry because no one left room for your pain alongside hers. Yes, exactly. That's it. That's the sentence I didn't know I needed. Because that's been the hardest part, watching everyone rush to console them while I'm treated like a footnote. In therapy, I've also been unlearning the shame I attach to my feelings. For a long time, I thought hating her made me a monster. But now I understand that hate, when it comes from grief, isn't permanent. It's not the opposite of love. It's a reaction to loss, to betrayal, to injustice. It doesn't define me. It just means I'm human. We've officially started the divorce process. It's strange how mechanical it all is. Checking boxes, signing forms, splitting assets like we're just business partners dissolving a contract. But what gutted me the most wasn't any of that. It was a letter he sent me last week. Yes, a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A 4-page handwritten letter in his old doctor scrawl. He wrote that he never meant to hurt me. That meeting her made him realize he had been emotionally numb for years and that our marriage, while safe, wasn't transformative. He said she awakened something in him that he didn't know he was missing. And then, in the final paragraph, he wrote, I know it sounds unfair, but I hope one day you'll see this as a turning point for you too. Maybe you'll find someone who makes you feel the way she makes me feel. Someone who makes life feel alive again. I don't think I've ever felt such a mix of rage and pity. How do you hurt someone and then offer hope like it's a consolation prize? Like he's giving me permission to be happy again someday. Once I've forgiven him for burning our life down. I haven't responded. I don't know if I ever will. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. Some of it felt healing. Some of it cracked open wounds I thought were starting to scab over. But all of it has forced me to grow, whether I was ready or not. Before I go any further, I want to thank everyone who commented, messaged, and just listened. Your responses didn't just comfort me. They reminded me that I wasn't unreasonable for feeling broken, bitter, and betrayed. I wasn't crazy for hating a situation that everyone else seemed determined to romanticize. Well, this update isn't about romanticizing. It's about facing something I've been terrified of since the day he walked out. It's about her. Yes, I finally spoke to the woman my husband left me for. And no, it wasn't planned. Not really. But the conversation happened, and it shifted something in me. She reached out, through a mutual friend. Actually, I got a message asking if I'd be willing to talk to her, even just once. Apparently, she wanted to clear the air. She said she wasn't looking for drama, that she understood if I never wanted to hear her voice. But she was hoping for closure, for both of us. At first, I deleted the message. Then I reread it, and reread it again. I sat with it for 3 days. And then, I said yes. We met at a quiet little cafe. I arrived early, hands trembling, convinced I was about to walk into the most painful conversation of my life. When she arrived, she looked normal. That might sound silly, but I think part of me expected her to be this larger-than-life figure. The woman who changed everything. But she was just a woman. Pale, soft-spoken, clearly nervous. She thanked me for meeting her. I didn't say much at first. I just let her talk. And here's the surprising part. She didn't defend what happened. She didn't pretend it was okay. In fact, she cried. She said she never expected to fall in love with a married man. That when they met, she was just trying to survive her treatments and make it through each week. She said it started as emotional support, talks in waiting rooms, casual run-ins at the hospital cafe. That it wasn't romantic at first, but then it started to feel safe, familiar, hopeful. And yes, eventually, it turned into love. But what struck me was this. She didn't call it fated. She called it messy. She said she wrestled with guilt every day. That she tried to convince him to stay in the marriage. That when he didn't, she didn't celebrate. It just made her scared. And then she said something I'll never forget. I never hated you. I envied you. You had a version of him I never got to see. Healthy, steady, not burdened by watching someone die. I got the version of him that came from pain. I didn't know how to respond. My throat felt tight. Because for the first time, I saw the whole situation without the fantasy lens. It wasn't a fairy tale. It was 2 broken people clinging to each other in the dark. And I was the collateral damage. I wish I could tell you that conversation healed me. That I left the cafe with lightness in my chest and closure in my heart. But it's not that simple. I still feel betrayed. I still think my husband made a selfish, destructive choice. And I still believe she made room for that choice, even if she didn't start it. But I don't hate her in the way I used to. I think I hated the idea of her more than the woman herself. I hated that she was treated like a symbol, survival, strength, second chances. I hated that I was expected to be okay with being discarded in favor of that narrative. But now that I've seen her up close, she's just as haunted by the past as I am. She told me that she knows it probably won't last, that she worries my husband latched onto her because of what she represents, not who she actually is, that their relationship is fragile and tied to trauma. She didn't say this to gain my sympathy. I could tell she was scared to even share it. But it reminded me of something. Love born in crisis doesn't always survive peace. Since that day, I've been different. Not healed, but real. Like I've come back into my own body after being trapped in someone else's plotline. I've started doing things I used to enjoy, small things. Cooking real meals instead of eating cereal over the sink. Rejoining a yoga class. Listening to music without spiraling into grief. Journaling without censoring myself. I've also started dating again. Not seriously, not yet. But I went on a coffee date with a kind man who made me laugh. And that was enough. It reminded me that I'm still capable of joy, of connection, that there's more to my story than how it ended with him. My ex and I are still finalizing the divorce. We barely speak. He doesn't know I'm met with her, and I don't think I'll ever tell him. There's nothing left to say. I've said goodbye to the man I thought I married, and I'm slowly meeting the woman I forgot I was. Update 3. This will probably be my last update. It's been a long, painful road since my original post, and if you've been following along, thank you. Truly, I never imagined a bunch of strangers on the internet would become such a big part of my healing, but your kindness, honesty, and compassion helped me carry this weight when it felt too heavy for one person. Well, the divorce is final. There was no dramatic courtroom moment, no screaming or last-minute declarations of love or regret, just a quiet signing of papers, a brief acknowledgement, and then we left in separate directions. In some ways, it felt anticlimactic. I kept thinking, is this really it? 6 years of marriage ending in a 10-minute meeting and a notary stamp? But in another way, it was fitting. Our marriage didn't end with a bang. It ended with a slow, hollow unraveling. And once I accepted that, I stopped expecting closure to come in some big, cinematic moment. Sometimes closure looks like silence. Like waking up one day and realizing you didn't cry in the shower. Like going to the grocery store and not instinctively buying their favorite coffee. A lot, actually. Internally, I feel more grounded. I'm no longer cycling through rage and grief like I was in the beginning. The emotions are still there, but they've softened around the edges. They don't cut as deep anymore. Therapy has helped. I started seeing a therapist weekly, and we've been unpacking more than just the breakup. We're working on how I tend to people please, how I lost my voice in a relationship, how I was so focused on being a good wife that I ignored how small I was becoming. One day in therapy, my counselor asked me, "When was the last time you felt fully like yourself?" And I couldn't answer. That scared me, but it also motivated me. Since then, I've been trying to rediscover who I am. Not as someone's wife, not as someone's almost, but as me. About 3 weeks ago, I saw them together. My ex and the woman he left me for. It wasn't planned. I was walking near the park where I usually go on weekends, and there they were, sitting on a bench, sharing coffee, looking normal, not giddy or in love or dramatic. Just two people being quiet together. And for the first time, I didn't feel hate. I didn't feel anything sharp or heavy. Just this weird, almost neutral stillness. Like watching two characters in a story that no longer belongs to me. It didn't trigger me. It didn't shatter me. I just kept walking. Later, I cried, but it wasn't a breakdown. It was more like release. Like something had finally let go of me. I don't forgive him. Not fully. I don't think I ever will. But I don't feel the need to carry the resentment anymore. Not for her, not for him. Not for the people who treated this like some beautiful romantic fairy tale. I've realized that holding on to pain doesn't protect me. It just keeps me tied to something I no longer want. I've moved into a smaller place. It's quiet, but it's mine. I painted the walls a color he would have hated. I adopted a senior cat from the shelter. Her name is Luna, and she sleeps next to me every night. She doesn't care about my past, and that feels oddly comforting. I've started journaling again, like really journaling, not just trauma dumping into a notebook. I've gone on a few more dates. Nothing serious yet, but one of them turned into a genuine friendship. He's kind. We hike sometimes. We talk about books. And for once, I don't feel like I need to prove anything to be liked. I also reconnected with my sister, the one who originally romanticized the situation. We had a long, difficult conversation, and to her credit, she apologized. She said she hadn't realized how much her words hurt me, that she was caught up in the love story and forgot that real people were bleeding behind it. I appreciated that more than I expected. We're not back to what we were, but we're rebuilding. Slowly. If you're reading this and your heart is broken, really, truly broken, please know that I see you. And more importantly, I believe you. You're not overreacting. You're not dramatic. You're not too sensitive. Being left for someone else hurts. Being erased hurts. Watching your life get rewritten like you were just a side character hurts. But you're not a side character. You are not invisible. And you don't need to wait for anyone else to validate your grief before you begin healing. You're allowed to feel what you feel. You're allowed to rage, to mourn, to be angry and soft and scared and brave all at once. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, you're allowed to let go. Not because they deserve peace, but because you do.